I want to tell you a bit about what the gloves are, how they work, and kind of why we're making them, I guess. So the story of the gloves is really to do with looking at how we change the way we compose and perform music using computers. So our small team's been looking at new ways to do this in London for the past sort of 5 years or so, and it's kind of been a kind of project for us, and so I'm going to try and explain why. So first up, what's the problem? So fundamentally, we believe that existing ways of interacting with computers, they restrict the boundaries of human creativity. We've got all the amazing processing power that a computer provides, but it's really the interfaces to them that we have that create artificial limits to the things we can create. And that's really particularly pertinent in music, which is so multi-dimensional and has all of the incredible complexity that we want to get out there and demonstrate to people. Most electronic music is made using like a laptop, and inside the laptop you have all this incredible array of plugins and kind of audio effects and synthesis, and that's just GarageBand. And then you have all kinds of other things that you bring into it, software, like huge amounts of complexity. But then most people are making electronic music, they're kind of programming in with the keyboard and the mouse, and this is kind of, nice because this is something we all have, but it's just not a good way to create music. It's kind of convenient, but that's basically where it ends. And everybody knows this, and so the music technology industry has for a long time been producing like loads of really brilliant controllers and interfaces, and like particularly in the last few years there have been some amazing kind of new controllers to kind of hook up to Ableton or Logic and use in kind of interesting and innovative ways. And I've done some programming recently with the Launchpad and with the Push, and they're really beautiful objects and like fantastic to play with. But if we had to sort of critique things like this, like most of them are made of buttons and sliders and knobs, and there are exceptions to that, but that probably covers 90% of the kind of controller world. And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing to say that it's bad, but they really aren't. They're great for a user. They put the user at the center of things, that you're able to control things and you know where things are, but you're looking down and you're not looking up at the audience. You're not communicating with people about what it is you're doing with the stuff inside the computer. Well, this world of like multi-channel kind of parallel compression, loads of effects is going on in your computer, and you're just twisting this one knob to kind of control one parameter. And we think that's a real bottleneck, and we want to change that. What am I saying next? Right. So what I was going to say is, am I making a meal of this, or is this a real problem? I want to kind of convince you that this is a real problem, and that we need a new way to control music. And I'm trying to give you 3 reasons. So the first one is that basically there's music that exists today that cannot be performed. So we've got music that we write on our computers with incredibly complex automation curves and all of the stuff we do in Ableton or Logic or whatever software we use, and we have no way to really perform it. We just don't have the nuance and complexity and subtlety of interface to be able to render that live to people. So we need a new way of doing that. The second reason is that if you look at the drummer, right? The drummer is smashing a cymbal. This is the most physical, like really visceral experience of a live performance, and I love watching drummers. I'm a guitarist, but I love watching drummers because it's just so physical and incredible to watch somebody physically interacting with an instrument in that way. And what we see in electronic music is often something more like the person on the right-hand side is they're looking down at their equipment, and they're not engaging with the audience, they're not communicating with people about what they're doing. Again, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing on the right. I'm saying this shouldn't always be this way. We should have options for people to do something on the left with electronic music. There's loads of brilliant music that's been done using controllers. I don't think we should see a world without all of the other controllers that currently exist. So this is not an absolutist manifesto. Then, I've written, this is the third reason. I think there's music that no one has even thought of making yet because the interfaces we have to computers are too limited. So if we had new interfaces and new complexity and new ways to interact with the incredible world of software we have inside computers, people would make new music. And for me, that's the most compelling reason to build new musical interfaces. So a few years ago, we set out to try and come up with an alternative, and what we came up with in our kind of answer to this question was the mi.mu gloves. So they're wireless, wearable, gestural musical instruments and controllers. And the idea is basically that you can capture any kind of gesture or sound and connect to any gesture and connect it to any sound that you want in your performance. So you create a very personalized experience and performative connection between your actions and your music. So I'm going to show you a quick video.
So I'm moving around the scale by going up and down. Down there goes down a fifth, or down a fourth. And then I can change the filter like that. And I can go between different sounds by going up and down using the pitch. This is what we call pitch. This is what we call yaw. This is what we call roll. And here, filtering the sound and kind of pitch bending it. And then stopping the arpeggiator and starting it again. So I'm kind of going across the waveform, fading it down, panning, more gap between the grains. And when my finger is doing this posture, which is called one finger point, it changes to a different sound. And when my hand's open, it's moving that sound. And if you can hear, it's going from left to right.
So I hope you can kind of see there's the sort of physical connection between movement and sound is really the key thing that we're trying to capture there, and I hope you feel that as well. So how does it work? Each of the gloves has 8 bend sensors inside the fingers, which capture the bend of the fingers like this. So effectively we get the readings between 0 and 1 of each finger pretty much. Then we've got an IMU on the arm. So this basically lets us measure roll, pitch, yaw. So it's really the sort of orientation and space of the arm, but because your arm is attached to your shoulder, hopefully it looks like a physical movement from left to right or up or down. And then all of that is sent over Wi-Fi using something called the Exosk, which is developed by Tom and Seb, who are on our team. So that sends all of the data over Wi-Fi, and then we can get it into the computer. And from there, inside, when it gets to the computer, we do some posture recognition. And so this allows us to tell from the flex center data whether you're making a fist or an open hand or a one finger point. And you can actually teach it any posture you want. So you can train if you want to do that posture or a pinch, or if you come up with a new posture that you want to train it, then you can teach it that as well. So then Glover is our kind of glove mapping software. So this is the way that when you get all of this data about your hand into the software, this is how you go, right, I'm now going to connect this to my music software and turn this into music. And the key, we started off thinking about, okay, let's hook up the gloves in a certain way to music software that makes them perform in a certain way. And it became really apparent very quickly that we couldn't just create a single mapping. It had to be dynamic. It had to be the musician who decides on the relationship between what the movements they're making and the sound that comes out. And what this is about is allowing any musician to create their own gesture sound relationships, and the importance of that is that everybody is different. Everybody has a very personal connection with their music, and their performance is very personal, and people don't want to perform in the same way. And this does go against maybe some of the arguments that have been made before about how we should make instruments, and people have often said they should have a very fixed kind of way of functioning and that we shouldn't let the user start doing mapping strategies, but it's actually become an artistic output of the users we have so far. The artistic output part of it is the way that they connect gesture to sound, and that's become a really important part of our project. And by looking at a kind of spectrum, we'll see a few in a little bit of different users, you get a bit of a sense for that. So Glover can also, it's basically it spits out MIDI. But it also spits out OSC, and it also lets you map to the feedback on the glove. And you'll see when Chagall's performing a bit later, she's also controlling visuals behind her on the screen over OSC at the same time as controlling the music. So hopefully that will all work. This is our team. So there's 8 of us. So there's Chagall and I there, but Kelly Snook, who's just down here, is also part of the Gloves team. And we've also got Seb Magic, and Tom are both based in Bristol, and Seb develops the sensors. Tom works on the software. Hannah Perner-Wilson and Rachel Ferrer design textiles and work on the electronic side. And we also have Imogen Heap in the top left-hand corner. Now, the mi.mu gloves were Imogen Heap's idea. She, about 5 years ago, wanted new ways to kind of connect to all of the different kind of gear she had on stage, and she was looking for a way to do that. And so she just, about 5 years ago, she pulled a team around her and really kind of decided she was going to write a song using gloves. And we all kind of got together, and it was sort of, ages and ages, and particularly up to close to the show, there's these sleepless nights, and all of us together, like working on the textiles or soldering or writing the software while Imogen was writing the song. And it was a real kind of, quite a, it felt like a big hack day, but one that never ended if you've ever been to one. It was a really exciting time, and by the time it finally came around to it and Imogen did the first song, we thought, wow, this is actually something really exciting. And so what we decided to do was, we thought, right, we need to sort of get these to more people. I think I already mentioned we came out here to Berlin, and that was really the first time we brought a whole kind of bunch of prototypes out to people, and they were trying them, they were building things, and we really started to see then, oh, you're not doing anything like we expected, or you've connected it to some visual software, and that was very exciting. And then we started to refine them, and we started to try and answer some of the big questions that popped up. So, for example, how do you allow a musician to compose music using gloves, and what even is good glove music? How do you make wireless gloves work in a room full of people using iPhones? And then how do you make things that are comfortable, look really good, and that musicians want to use on stage, and not just kind of people who are just want to use, they look kind of bulky and terrible. We don't want that. So yeah, here's was I meant to get to. So this is a bit of a evolutionary generation. So there used to be a full bodysuit behind the gloves that handled all of the communications, and we now really got it down to the wrist, and that was a big step. And we've been through a lot of iterations of the glove. So yeah, in the end of 2014, we released the first 15 pairs of gloves to the public, and we had some really interesting people come on and use them, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a few of them. So this is Chris Halpin. So he's a very dear friend of ours. So Chris is kind of part of an organisation called Drake Music, and which are a charity that helps musicians with disabilities. And Chris himself has cerebral palsy, and he's really found that he's a guitarist, and he found that his condition was really affecting the way that he was able to play. And since he's had a pair of gloves, he's now found them extremely liberating, because he can not only play guitar-like things, he's been able to go out and tour the UK and do all kinds of different electronic music, and he's played on the radio, and it's been, as he said to us, like a really transformational experience for him. So I'm going to show you a quick video of Chris. So. So another person that we had used the gloves is Ariana Grande, and this was quite an interesting one because we had to deal with this kind of enormous stadium of screaming teenagers, which was both scary but also from a kind of wireless audio perspective also very, very challenging. So we had some kind of issues to solve there, and Kelly here went out on tour with Ariana for I think two tours around the world or something like that with 8 months, and using the gloves every night in these arenas. So that was quite exciting. This was us in LA at Ariana's house doing some stuff, and then there's some of her in the arena. So. And then we also actually have like loads more people using. There's film composers, we've got visual artists, physical theatre practitioners. There's just a whole range of different people who've been using them. We've got loads of videos on YouTube if you go and have a look of different people using them, but I'm going to just give you a quick taste of those.
Just different drums, so kick, snare, tom, hi-hat, open hi-hat, and crash. So it should be...
So what next? We are looking just at how we can get this idea of gestural music making, which is not our idea. There's a whole world of musical instrument making that has been engaged with gesture before anyone thinks we're claiming this as we're thought of it. But we want to get the idea of gestural music making out there to as many people as possible, and we're really looking at some quite exciting ideas at the moment about how we're going to do that. So we'll be in touch.